Hey guys, Kai here, and in today's video, we'll be going over all of the changes that will be made in patch 15.7. These changes were provided directly to creators to help create content for the community in Watch Dogs' absence via Riot Games to help better inform the community about new changes. And as usual, I've taken the changes and formatted them for visual clarity in Watch Dogs' original style. That way, if you are watching me or my channel for the first time, they shouldn't feel too different from previous rundowns. That being said, let's now dive into the patch 15.7 rundown. First off, the revival, the Uncharted realms for Dragonlance is coming back, so starting from patch 15.7 until the end of 15.9, so October 22nd till December 2nd, Dragonlance set 7 is returning with brand new augments, opening encounters, and trait updates. Moving on to the trait set for set 15, Crystal Gambit once again has failed to miss a change per patch. I'm telling you, every single patch there has been something new about Crystal Gambit, and in this patch we are going to be seeing that Crystal Gambit is going to be seeing a bit of a nerf. The 5 cash outs have been super dominant in the current meta, where we have seen things like Malzahar reroll or Ari reroll, or even some Malzahar 2 fast 9 shenanigans that still play around 5 Crystal Gambit, where people are utilizing the loot orbs to try and cap out super high on level 9. So now we're going to be seeing some changes on the loot table. The 6 kill reward, which gives 2 lesser dupe, will now be swapped to 1 lesser dupe and 4 gold, and that's probably the biggest nerf out of all of this. The 12 kill reward, which gives a strat emblem and 3 gold, has been moved to be 16 kills instead. And as for the 16 kill reward that gives a completed anvil and 10 gold, that has been moved to 12 kills instead, but instead of 10 gold, it now gives 2. So overall, some nerfs, but this is very clear that Riot does not want to, or rather does not intend to completely nerf 5 crystal out of the meta entirely. This does look like a healthy change of still trying to keep 5 crystal meta, and it does, in my opinion, still look like it's going to be very strong. It's just going to be not nearly as strong or as consistent as it used to be. It's definitely going to take a little bit longer to get those cash outs to really get that ball rolling and steamroll the lobby. Next change, Sorks. The 4-piece of Sorks is getting a bit of a buff, a 5 AP buff. Soul Fighter, on the 4-6 side, they're going to be buffing the amount of AD and AP you get per second, trying to make the mid-game of Soul Fighters just a little bit more competitive. It is a little bit interesting to see that the 6-piece and the 8-piece give the exact same amount of AP and AD with this new change. So I'm curious to see if 8 Soul Fighter is going to be the de facto on level 8 like we've seen currently, and instead it may be possible that 6 Soul Fighter with flex units like Volibear and Braum is going to be better overall. Sniper, same thing as well. They're trying to buff the middle, sort of mid game, if you decide to play around the snipers. So they're buffing the 3 and 4 piece of sniper just a little bit. This does seem to indirectly buff Jin sniper specifically, but other than that, I can't really think of a comp that actually really likes this change overall. Strategist, the shield is getting nerfed down overall, and this is actually a very large nerf if you think about it, because strategist units actually get triple the value. So this is actually quite a substantial nerf to the front line for strategist shielding. And then finally, for Wraith, the 4-piece is going to get a 5% damage increase from the realm. Now moving on to the unit changes. First one is going to be Gnar, who is going to be seeing a slight increase in his hex range, going from 4 to 5. For the 2-cost side, for Mundo, his ability will no longer cleanse, debuffs, and crowd control. This is pretty interesting. I think this was specifically done because Mundo's ability kind of hard counters Malzahar in particular, because every time he casted his ability, it would actually cleanse away Malzahar's debuff. So with that being out of the way, now Mundo isn't this weird giga counter, so that is going to be a little bit healthier for matchmaking. Kobuko is going to be seeing quite a lot of nerfs overall. First off, the mana is the biggest one, where it's going to cost even more mana to, 1, get that first cast off. It's going to cost an extra 5, but also to get that recast again to cast a second time and the third time, etc. His subsequent casts are going to cost 85 mana instead of 70. So that is quite a large substantial nerf to the amount of times you're going to see Kobuko casting. His Mentor's secondary damage is also getting a bit of a nerf as well. We're seeing it go from 90, 135, 210 AD and 8% HP down to 80, 120, 185 AD and 5% HP. So again, a large damage nerf, less subsequent cast. So any comp that utilizes Kobuko, aka things like Kobuko Jaina, are going to be seeing quite a lot less play on the next patch. For the 3-cost space, Kog'Maw is going to be seeing some nerfs to his on-hit damage, which personally I am not the biggest fan of, just because when I think of Kog'Maw as a composition, I do see him as very middling of A tier. Nothing too crazy hot, but nothing too weak either. So seeing him getting this nerf makes me a little bit sad, because when I think about what should be the ideal power level of the average composition in TFT, it should be that middling A tier in my opinion. I think that is a really healthy space for a lot of compositions to be in, where you really have to be selective of the tempo and your line and your conditions to make sure that the line actually performs well and actually performs decently. So seeing that Kog'Maw might potentially be moving down and away from that makes me a little hesitant about this change, but there's a ton of things that change in TFT all the time, and especially on this patch, so who knows, my concerns might be completely null, but that is my initial impression. Malzahar, on the other hand, first off, no longer offered Mage, which is a very healthy direction overall. First off, in case you didn't know this already, Mage is bugged on Malzahar. I feel like this is old news, but perhaps not. But the way that Mage worked on Malzahar specifically was because he was I believe it was because he was a Prodigy unit. What ended up happening was he would get his first cast off, or maybe it's the cast animation. I don't know what really caused the whole debacle. But the idea is that he would cast once, gain a little bit of mana for some reason, and then cast a second time. But then because he would cast a second time, that mana that he got was suddenly just bloop, gone. And then he would start regaining his mana. So actually, Mage Malzahar on 15-6 actually does less damage than you'd expect him to than is intended. And the only reason and the only thing that's stopping people from even clicking on Mage in the first place on Malzahar, despite the bug, because it was still his strongest power up, was that Noxious Trap got introduced last patch, which just gets it just makes your item economy so glorious, because you don't have to worry about Shred or Sunder or Anti-Heal, because it's all packed up in this nice beautiful fruity package, right? So that's the only reason why no one's clicking on Mage. So I think you might as well just get rid of it, axe it at this point, because let's not deal with that headache later down the line, because that could be a potential headache in the future. The next thing to know as well is the bug fix, which I thought was really crazy. I did not know this when I first read this. When enemies die, there are no longer any instances where 2 stacks of the spell will transfer instead of 1. So it turns out on 15-6, Malzahar is still, regardless, doing a lot more damage than intended. So I would actually be surprised, or not surprised rather, if Malzahar is doing a lot less damage than you'd expect on the next patch, because I don't actually know how often this bug was occurring. Like, it doesn't actually specify which instances in which this would happen. So this is surprising, to say the least. So I'm curious to see just how far Malzahar falls from his top of the throne, if you will. But next up, going on to Rammus. His shield is his health per taunted enemy is going to get quite a large buff, only because nobody is clicking on this unit, let's be honest. Like, no one's looking at Rammus at all. No one. So maybe this makes him okay. God, shut the fuck up. Me, not you. Me. I don't know if you're talking while I was talking, but just to clarify, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I should stop swearing. Excuse me. Udyr, his base heal is going to be buffed up a little bit as well, which is great. And his mentor heal is also going to get buffed up as well. Just because, again, no one's really ecstatic about tank Udyr in general, but maybe, hopefully, this pushes him back into the meta with, like, the Colossal stuff, or maybe a different variation of Duelist, as we've seen a little bit with some Gather Force stuff with GP. Although that comp is kind of dookie. Finally, for Yasuo is the last 3 costs we're going to be talking about. He's going to get a little bit of a nerf on his spell damage. Now moving on to the 4 costs though, Ashe is going to be getting a little bit of a mana buff here, so it's going to be a little bit easier for her to cast her spell. Karma as well is going to be seeing a slight buff as well, just a little bit more AP in her spell. Cassante, who has been the best 4 cost tank for quite a while now, is going to be seeing a 50 HP nerf, and Leona will be seeing slightly more shields with a bit more AP scaling for her 2-star shield. For Poppy, her base shield is going to be going up a little bit for her AP ratio, so things like Crown Guard will be just slightly even better for her. Volibear will be seeing a 5 base AD buff, and finally Yuumi, the last 4 costs on our list, will be seeing a little bit more AP damage for her spell. And then over onto the 5 cost side, Varus is going to be seeing a little bit more damage per arrow for his spell, and Yone is going to be seeing a bit of a buff to his ability as well. Nothing much to really note here. Now for the augment side, first off, the silver, the only change we're going to be seeing for the silver augments is that Perfect Form Zack's hero augment is going to be seeing some substantial buffs. The base ability damage and the empowered ability damage will be getting buffed up quite a bit, which is hilarious when you think about it, because Zack, his hero augment used to be an auto-click augment 2 patches ago, and then it became the worst performing hero augment across the entire set, and where it's completely unclickable, to now maybe we can click on it. So we'll see how that goes. For the gold side, Blood Rage, the damage amp, the high end of it is going to be nerfed down by 5%, which is interesting to see because they keep nerfing the high end of this augment, which is kind of odd to me because whoever I talk to, they're just like, Blood Rage sucks, don't ever click on that thing. But it's theoretically supposed to be good in compositions like Vertical Duelists, where everybody is getting a little bit chipped down and they get a little bit of bonus damage amp and they're all like swinging their swords or whatever, trying to do a little bit more damage. So I think this is a preemptive nerf just in case Duelist does become meta, because if Duelist does become meta, then suddenly Blood Rage becomes an auto-click augment and that could become a whole debacle, right? So I think that's just them just being a little bit cautious. The Darkness Within, the summon health per stage, is also going to be getting a bit of a nerf. Game Plan, the hex damage amp is going to be nerfed down by 2%. Howling Gale is now banned on 3-2. Hallelujah. Because who the fuck is clicking on a Howling Gale on 3-2? Overheal, the max shield is also going to be buffed, by another 100. And the percent healing is going to be buffed up by another 10%. Psychic Forge is also now banned on 4-2. Hallelujah again, because who's clicking on Psychic Forge on 4-2? Not me. Tesla Coil, the magic damage is going to be nerfed down even further, which is crazy when you think about it. I think Tesla Coil has been nerfed 2, if not 3 patches in a row now. Maybe more. So it's been nerfed down quite a bit, but it is a very strong augment when the conditions are correct. But most of the time, it's very difficult to justify clicking on this augment. So I'm curious to see how this augment performs now after these nerfs in particular. Tournament Titans, the health per win is also going to be nerfed down as well. I don't know anybody who clicks on this augment, but okay. And then Twilight Assault, Shen's hero augment, is going to be seeing a nerf as well, which is a good change because that augment is very, very strong. And finally, for the Prismatics, Isekai now requires at least one strategist for the strategist version to appear for Echo. And Isekai's Echo health HP is going to be nerfed down by 150 HP. I cannot do math, but overall, that's what we got for the augment changes. Now moving on to the items. First off, Ginsu's is going to be seeing a slight buff, 1% extra attack speed per second. Kraken's Fury is also going to be seeing a overall net neutral change, but it's overall a buff as well. So let me explain. First off, the max stacks are going to go down from 20 to 15, so you can hit the max stacks faster and proc that attack speed buff. But the 80 per stack is also going to be buffed up by 1% AD. So in total, you still get 60 AD overall after stacking it completely, but you get to stack it a little bit faster. So overall, this is a buff for Kraken's Fury. Finally, Last Whisper, the Sunder will now apply from all instances of damage from attacks and abilities, not just physical damage. The Radiant variations of Ginsu's and Kraken's are also going to be buffed up as well. Radiant Ginsu's gets that extra 1% attack speed per second, going from 12 to 13. And Radiant Kraken's Fury, the max stacks is the same thing, it's 15 as well. But because it's a Radiant item, it will get 8% AD per stack for a total of 120? No. It's a little bit more now. 8 times... yeah, 120. God, I'm stupid. For the artifacts, the sniper's focus range increase is going to be nerfed down from 2 to 1, making it a little bit more dicey in case you decide to take it for units like Yasuo. Somebody on the balance team really hates sniper's focus bashing Yasuo. Now going on to the power-up changes. First off, best defense is going to be seeing a nerf. The shield to damage ratio is going to go from 140 down to 100%. Classy has been removed from the following units: Lucian Cannon, Lux, Ahri, Karma, Gwen, Rel, Garen, Swain, Leona, Braum. And I will say this. This is supposed to be an overall buff, right? Because you don't want to be playing Classy on basically any of these units. That's fairly understandable. The problem, though, is that utilizing Classy as a fruit blocker was quite common because Classy was used on so many units. And because of that, and because fruit blocking and fruit tailoring unfortunately exists in the game and it's the most optimal to be doing so, it's overall like a net neutral. Like, sure, you don't get these horrid power-ups on these units anymore, which is fantastic, but you also lose your ability to potentially be able to power block utilizing Classy. So there you go. Denting Blows, Vi's new hero power up is going to be seeing a slight buff up from 25 to 30%. I tried playing Innervating Locket, Denting Blows Vi 3, because I think I was playing like Mundo Hero, and that shit felt like ass. So I am glad to see this getting buffed. Fairy Tail is going to be seeing a bit of a nerf as well. Not sure why. I can't think of a comp that really loves Fairy Tail off the top of my head. Maybe I'm just like blanking on something super obvious here, but someone can point it out to me in case I'm being dumb. Fury Break is going to be seeing a buff as well, which is kind of spicy because as people have sort of figured out, the Shojin Gunblade QSS Gangplank Reroll Fury Break on Kale build, that was a mouthful, has been picking up steam in terms of popularity. It's not a very good composition overall. I really think it's a composition that you can only really play with Radiant Shojin, at least on 15.6. And I don't think Fury Break is really going to change anything about that composition at all, because the only reason why that comp is even good in the first place is because Radiant Shojin allows you to build a QSS. And when GP gets CC'd, that's when all hell breaks loose and the comp just falls apart. And also GP2 is just incredibly unstable. There's a lot of problems with it. We're not here to just talk about that composition, but overall, Fury Break buff is spicy changes, but I don't think it actually changes anything impactful when it comes to that composition in particular. Mana Rush, the weight, the secondary is going to get buffed up by an extra 10. I believe it's supposed to be a percent, but I don't actually know what unit they use for the weight, so we're just going to call it 10 weight. A little bit easier to find it on units like Jarvan. Max Arcana is going to get a bit of a nerf here. The base AP is going to go from 20 to 15, so a little nerf to units like Katarina Reroll. And on that note, over 9,000 also getting a bit of a nerf. The health per stack is going to get nerfed from 50 down to 35, again, mostly due to Katarina Reroll. Stalking Dart, Ori's new fruit as well. Foxfire damage is going to get buffed up by 1%. Super Mega, Jinx's specific hero power-up as well is also going to get buffed up by another 10% baseline AD. Supremacy is getting removed for all of those Supreme Cell units, which makes sense. I don't think anybody ever clicked on Supremacy ever. Thrill Seeker is going to be getting a bit of a buff as well for the buff duration from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. And then Unstoppable is going to be seeing another nerf as well, where the stun duration is going from 1 second down to 0.75. And the health bonus is going from 150 down to 100. So wow. I mean, the CC is pretty valuable, but somebody on the balance team also really hates Katarina Reroll because Unstoppable was mostly used in the meta with Rakan. Finally, for the bug fixes, Tactician's Kitchen's tooltip properly indicates that all combat counts towards its delay. Mind Battery's tooltip more clearly indicates that its effect happens after the first cast and not upon. Know Your Enemy's tooltip clarified to indicate it grants damage amp, which is funny because there's a debate on Twitter about whether or not it actually did, and Mortog was actually incorrect because he thought that it was not damage amp, but it turns out it is. Resistance power-ups tools slightly rephrased for clarity, which is, I guess, thank you. Overheal's tooltip clarified to better indicate how much damage it adds to empowered attacks, thanks. Starsealer power-up properly applies its stat bonus correctly every combat. Wow, this power-up was already bad enough you never wanted to use it, and it turns out it was bugged, so it was even worse. So maybe it's actually clickable now, who knows? I doubt it. Kaisa and Yumi do the proper amount of damage with bullet hell rather than reduced damage, so it turns out if you were doing bullet hell Yumi, you were actually shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah, you should have known that one, huh? Monster Trainer Champions can be combined when the player's bench is full. Good, because sometimes people get people could not combine it, which is really bad. I remember that was like the very first bug that people noticed on the day of the patch. So that's bad. But glad that it got fixed. And then Crystal Gambit prop no longer rounds its visual display, which occasionally caused misleading cash outs to occur. So that's gonna do it for the patch rundown. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, any feedback on how we do these rundowns, I love to hear them in the comments. But until next time, see you guys all later. Take care. Happy Cloud.